Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. We're here hoping to help you to find some resources as relative caregivers that may be helpful to you in our community. I'm joined by 5 other people who are also providing services in our community, and I will introduce them as they begin speaking. My name is Laura Ankenbruck, and I'm an attorney with Bay Area Legal Services. I exclusively represent relative caregivers for Bay Area and have done so for the past 13 years. Bay Area is a not-for-profit legal firm, and we provide free legal services to eligible clients. I do want to take a moment to make sure that if you have not heard or not familiar with Bay Area's work, that we let you know that we help people with all kinds of civil legal issues. So we are helping people with veterans benefits, helping them with disaster relief issues, with issues involving their home, foreclosure, of course, evictions, those sorts of things. In order to apply at Bay Area, you can apply by telephone. And the number is 813-232-1343, or you can also apply online at bals.org. At that website, you will also find a lot of accurate information about different legal issues, and I would encourage you to check out our website. We've got a section at the top. You click on COVID-19, that will answer a lot of your questions about the current pandemic, benefits that you might be entitled to, and some of the legal issues that you, I'm sure, are dealing with. I know this is a very stressful time for many people, and I find that when people come to see me sometimes, one of the major problems that can occur is that there's a lot of information out there, but it's not all accurate information, and it may not be using Florida law, which is so important that you get accurate information and that it is using Florida law and applicable to your situation. So I encourage you to check out our website at bals.org. At the end of the program, we're going to post a list of the different resources that we've referred to today. So you don't have to write things down right now, but we'll let you know telephone numbers, emails, websites, and those sorts of things at the very end. I know that, again, many of you are dealing with very stressful situations. Several days ago, the governor extended the eviction moratorium for us, for our state. And what that means is that you should not be evicted for not paying your rent until at least July 1st. That moratorium may be extended further, but what we know now is that the moratorium will at least last until July 1st. You could be evicted for other reasons. We're also encouraging everyone to pay their rent if at all possible, because you still will owe those monies. Even if you can't have the actual eviction filed against you. There's a number of different organizations in our community that are helping people with rent, with mortgage payments, food assistance, and those sorts of things. So we encourage you to take advantage of those programs and to do your best. But we are here to help you if you need our services with evictions or foreclosures. Everyone should, most adults should have received a stimulus check in the last couple of months. And that was a $1,200 check for each adult and $500 for each child that should have come to you from the federal government. If you did not receive those funds and you do not know why, you definitely can apply at Bay Area, and we can help you to look into that issue. Another area that has just come up in the last few days is that the state of Florida has opted to participate in what's called pandemic EBT. And what that means is that if your child qualified for free or reduced lunch, when they were in school, even if you applied after they stopped attending regular school, you should receive a supplement either to your food assistance, if you already receive food assistance, or you should get an EBT card in the mail, and that will be mailed to your home address, or I should say the home address that the school has on file for your child. If you do not receive those funds, which should be, if your child was qualifying prior to school, regular school ending in March, your child should qualify for about $330 extra. So if you do not receive those funds, we would ask you or encourage you to speak with some of the kinship services or to contact our office so that we can help you to look into that further. Lastly is unemployment. If you have encountered reduced hours even, or your employment has been terminated, or you've been unable to work due to your care of children while the pandemic has been occurring since mid-March, we would encourage you to apply for unemployment and to seek out the services necessary to do that so that you can put yourself in a better financial situation. And I wanted now to introduce our first guest, Larry Cooper. And Larry is the Chief of Prevention and Intervention Services for the Children's Home Network. Larry's going to share with us some about his statewide advocacy. And I thought it was interesting when I checked with Larry about his title, he corrected me. I had intervention first. He corrected me to remind me that prevention is first, and that really is the goal of everyone here and all the kinship services, is to keep children with their families. The research shows that children do best with their families, and not only day to day, but have the best outcomes as far as their adult life if they are with a loving family member. So Larry, take it away.
All right. Well, thanks, Laura. It's great to be with everybody today, and certainly always appreciate all the collaboration with Bay Area Legal over the past, 12 plus years. Our families that we serve have always, been welcomed and taken advantage of all the important services that you guys have offered, and as well as your advocacy for, relatives and grandparents raising grandkids. So we always appreciate the support of the team there at Bay Area Legal, and Laura, your never-ending efforts to support our grandparents. And again, this is such an important topic right now because we know when we talk about kinship, the definition is broad and wide, and for folks that are outside of the child welfare system, that's really grandparents, aunts and uncles, cousins. Sometimes it's godparents, step grandparents. Could be a close family friend that are being called in a crisis, to step in and care for a child, sometimes for a short period of time and sometimes for the lifetime of that child. And so, during this current crisis with COVID and recent protests and other things going on, these families are so vulnerable to, some of the challenges. And I know the rest of the folks on our call today will share some of those challenges and some of the great resources and things that they've been able to offer to these families. But I think for us at the Children's Home, we've been doing this work for now going into our 20th year. And it's so exciting right now because there's a national spotlight on grandparents raising grandkids around the country because there's been such a crisis in the foster care system around the U.S. and recent legislation has pushed us to really put more support in place for relatives and non-relatives who are stepping in with sometimes in a moment's notice. And here in Florida, it's even that much bigger. Florida's third in the United States in the number of children being raised by a relative or a non-relative. And it's so important that we're stepping in to provide them support. So I think at the Children's Home, we do that through case management, support groups, advocacy work. We worked with Jack Levine recently to go to Tallahassee and bring caregivers there to talk with key stakeholders from child welfare, from the Department of Children and Families, from the Guardian Ad Litem's office, just a number of key folks that are interacting and advocating for the needs of these relative caregivers. And there's so many critical needs right now. And I know, we'll talk about some of them today: education and financial assistance and self-care. Those are all really important aspects of the work. But one of the key things that we really like to do, and all the folks on the call really appreciate, are, engaging caregivers themselves in the work. So at the Children's Home, we actually have hired grandparents and aunts and other caregivers to really be a part of the work to help others. I know we have Ashley Spring on the call today, and she's been working in the Kinship field for a number of years. She grew up as a BSW and MSW, but was actually raised in a Kinship family, and she's out there working hard for others. So I'm really excited to pass it over to Ashley to kind of share a little bit about her experience and the work that she's currently doing with Gulf Coast, and we'll certainly talk more about what we're doing at the Children's Home later on in the discussion.
Yes, excellent. Yes, Ashley Spring is a kinship counselor, and she is with the Gulf Coast Jewish Family and Community Services. Ashley, I know you not only are a professional, but like Larry mentioned, you had a kinship experience growing up. So feel free to share.
Well, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be here with everybody, and just kind of sharing my story. Like Larry mentioned, I come from a kinship home. I was raised kinship. At the age of 12, my mother passed away, and she was a single parent. So at that moment, I became an orphan by every definition of the word. And it was my aunt and uncle who really stepped up to the plate and said, I don't know what the next step is, but I'm going to do what we need to do. And unfortunately, back then, there wasn't a kinship program to kind of lead us to say, hey, this is the next step type of thing. So we were literally at the mercy of, any kind of support that we could get. And I think you should take some parenting classes. So off my aunt and uncle went for parenting classes. And, as a 12, 13-year-old, as a preteen, you think you already know everything, right? But just the process of just kind of growing up and everything like that, and just having that family support around me meant everything. So this has really been a great opportunity just to kind of connect with the kinship programs as a professional, and just really kind of plug in and just kind of give that feedback of, it's tough, but it's very doable. And it's doable because of the caregivers that step up, that say, hey, it's a thankless job, and you're going to continue doing it day in and day out. So what the caregivers are doing, thank you. But as kinship, as the society, the way we look at different things is, I think of different examples kind of on TV, on media, and just kind of the world around us. And the one example that comes to mind is Fresh Prince of Bel-Air from the early 90s, how he went to live with his Uncle Phil after getting into some trouble. That's kinship. President Obama went to live with his grandparents when he was 10 years old. That is kinship. So really, we see kinship in different ways, and they've been doing it for forever and ever, families helping families. But it's really kind of looking at that full-time piece of caregiving or having custody on a day-to-day basis. So I'm just really honored just to be a part of this panel, and just to provide support in the Tampa Bay area and in Hillsborough County. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
Well, and Ashley, I thought it was interesting. You were telling us during our practice that you are doing counseling with families, and you called it a porch visit, where you're keeping that social distance every other week. And then on alternate weeks, you're doing a Zoom or a Duo sort of electronic or counseling session with the families.
Yes. So with the whole COVID-19 pandemic that's kind of been going around, as a kinship counselor, we are there to provide supportive counseling in home to our caregivers, and making sure that they're plugged in, getting the services that they need. And a lot of it is just allowing them just to kind of vent and really just kind of be that advocate and be that support system directly to them. So we've gotten creative. We've done front porch visits and kind of maintaining social distancing, mask on, and just kind of getting creative, still checking in on the kiddos, making sure that they're getting their needs met. And then also kind of alternating, because we do see our families weekly, just kind of making sure that we're able to connect with them, whether it's through a Zoom call, whether it's through kind of everything that technology has to offer us, and just really using it to our benefit.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ashley. And Erin McKinley. Erin is the Kinship Support Program Director, also with Gulf Coast Jewish Family and Community Services. And you were going to touch on the importance of self-care for relative caregivers.
Yes, thank you for having me. We're delighted to be here. Thank you for all of those who could join us here. And just thank you again to the caregivers for all of the hard work that you do. And so just to, Ashley talked a little bit about what our program does. I just wanted to touch on that just for a moment and kind of go into some of the challenges and some of the ways that we do try to help our caregivers take the best care of themselves that they can. And so we are a counseling focused program. We wrap the family with whatever support they need. We make sure that they have the funding that they need. We make sure that children get the services that they need as quickly as possible, linking the family with whatever community resources we can, so that they really feel fully equipped to do the hard work that they do. The other big thing is we advocate for the families. And Larry touched on advocacy and all the great work that the Children's Home does to help caregivers in that area as well. And so for us, we'll attend the case staffings with the families. We will go to court with them. We will really help them to the best of our ability understand the dependency system and really how to navigate that. And there's a lot of moving parts and it can be very challenging for our families. But we also teach them to be advocates for themselves and for the children. I tell our caregivers all the time, your voice is the strongest and we have to help you make that be heard. And that can, be a little bit scary at first. Sometimes our children feel like if they speak up too much, there would be some, consequence, and that's certainly not the case. And so we really do a lot of work to help them be their own best advocate. And it's a really beautiful transformation to watch when that happens. And so, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Erin. I thought you were ending, but you could go ahead if you had something else to say.
I did. So our caregivers, of course, experience a lot of challenges. Just parenting can be challenging. So caregiving, especially for our children who have gone through a lot of trauma, is extremely challenging. They are holding that space for those kiddos with the very hard emotions and behaviors given what they've gone through. They're often feeling, isolated and alone. They sacrifice so many of their needs when they take on this role, and that can change their life in so many ways. And that's, why we are there to really help be somebody who they can have on their side and in their corner, and hopefully they aren't feeling so alone. Especially with COVID, as it's been stated, just being home all day with the kiddos for many of our caregivers, loss of employment, being a teacher for the children, not having really healthy outlets right now because there are a lot of limitations. And so our caregivers have huge hearts. They love these kids. They want to do whatever they can. But again, that often means that their needs aren't coming first. And so we talk with them a lot in terms of self-care about filling their cup, whether that's their spiritual cup, their physical cup, emotional cup. How can they keep that filled? And really helping them identify strategies and steps to take to keep that cup full, or at least to know when it needs to be refilled. The other important thing with self-care is that our caregivers give themselves permission to let them come first, to take those 10 minutes in the morning, to have a cup of coffee with a friend, and be okay with that and not feel like they can't tend to their own needs. And just a few other things. Coping skills is a big thing, helping them, again, take that time. Maybe that's just to take a deep breath because the stress is so high because of everything they're experiencing, and to take a time out and take that deep breath and regroup and then come back. And lastly, for self-care, one of the most important things is that our caregivers realize that it's okay to ask for help and that it's okay to receive that help, And that starts a lot of times with us, and we help them be able to extend that to the other people, either that they have in their lives that they may not have reached out to, or helping them identify and build some new support. So,
excellent. Thank you, Erin. And we have also with us today, Mr. Robert Davis, who is the Operations Director for Kinship at the Family Enrichment Center. And Mr. Davis is running a wonderful summer program this summer, and he's going to tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you, Attorney Ankenbruck. I echo what Mr. Cooper said earlier about how much we appreciate the support from Bay Area Legal in assisting our families with adoptions, with obtaining guardianship, with personal matters that, you know, would not be affordable to them if they had to do it by themselves. So I begin with a thank you for those services. Want to talk about the Family Enrichment Center summer program. First, I want to say, although the program is being hosted by the Family Enrichment Center, it is a part of the Kinship collaborative that we have with CHN. One of our focus areas is the education of children that are in kinship homes. And we start out early. One of the tools that we use is the ASQ, and we, you know, try to focus on the developmental concerns of young children. You know, their personal social skills, their fine motor skills, their gross motor skills, communication, you know, those things that may not, that may keep them from being on level when they start regular school. So we try early to target or to focus on those areas. This summer, we're planning on doing the same thing, but with the older group. We want to provide them somewhat the same type experience. We realize that this school year has been a modified school year or a challenged school year. So we want to make sure that we continue to add support to those kinship families or any child ages 6 through 14 that may have a need for academic support or want to enhance their social skills. This summer at the W. Davis Center, 5407 North 30th Street, we will be offering what is called our STEAM Sensational program. We picked that up from President Trump. Everything is sensational with our president. So we want to have a STEAM Sensational summer program. And what we're planning on doing is offering children the opportunity this summer to do some STEM activities, some science, some technology, some art, some math, you know, those fun things. And we will top it off with field trips. Every Friday, we're planning on participating in the field trip, such as the Florida Aquarium, such as Zoo Tampa, the YMCA, the Firefighters Museum, zoo, just various fun areas in Tampa. We have 5 certified Hillsborough County teachers that will be operating the summer program. We're going to provide all program participants a free breakfast and a free lunch. And on top of that, the summer program is free. So we don't want any of our kinship caregivers or families to have an additional expense for this summer. But the greatest thing that we're looking at doing is providing an opportunity, a respite opportunity for caregivers. We know that school has been out for about 2 to 3 months. We know that you're overwhelmed with trying to provide care for the children. We realize that academically you've been asked to do things that you haven't done in 50 or 60 years, trying to operate a computer, trying to assist your child or grandchild with academic subjects that you haven't done since you've been out of high school. And I even saw a caregiver the other day trying to help her grandchild with math. And it was funny to me because the child was nodding his head trying to learn and the grandparent was counting the fingers. Okay, if you have 5, 6, 7, you know, so we realize that many of you, you know, are not up to par on the skills that you need to know to be able to help that child. So this summer, we're going to have those teachers to assist those children. Believe it or not, in August, they're going back to school. And we want them to go back to school feeling good about where they are academically. You know, the success, academic success of a child is based on how they feel about their confidence. And if they go back to school feeling good about their learning level, then that's 50% of the battle of them learning this summer. So we want to provide the support so that they will meet the Hillsborough County benchmarks, that they will meet the standards that they're supposed to obtain based on grade level performance. Also this summer, we're planning on doing some character development skills with the kids. You know, a lot has been going on in our world, in our society. And a lot of the kids don't understand because they're too young to know what's actually going on. So we want to do some character development. We want to talk to them about things that's happening and how that doesn't per se involve them, that they are who they are based on, you know, their teachings of the families, based on how they think, based on, you know, how their skills, their skill set. So we don't want them to feel like they have added to what's going on in society. So character development is a main piece of the summer program, and just mainly the safety of children. We want to provide them the opportunity to come somewhere for 6 weeks and to have a fun and safe summer opportunity. So if you're interested in being a part of our summer program, feel free to contact the Family Enrichment Center, request to speak to Bob Davis, or you can call Attorney Ankenbruck and get the information. We would love your child to be a part of a great summer experience. Remember, it's going to be STEAM sensational.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Davis. And our last panelist, but not least, is Jennifer Navarro. And Jennifer is the program supervisor for Kinship with the Children's Home Network. And she's just going to touch on the opportunities that Kinship families have and Kinship providers for support programs and support meetings.
Thank you for having me, Laura.
Of
and
course.
I just wanted to mention, I wanted to thank you for inviting our families to the summer program. And I believe that is funded by the Children's Board, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. As it is for the Children's Home Network and Family Enrichment Center. But I think that the most wonderful thing about our support groups is that our caregivers realize that they're not alone. And that's the most important thing there. They get emotional support and reinforcement from their peers. Over the years, I've watched some of our caregivers, you know, we've got a couple, trouble number 1 and trouble number 2, if you're watching, but they reel in all of our new people that come in, and they trade phone numbers and just make sure that everybody's okay. We have support groups between Gulf Coast Family Enrichment Center and the Children's Home Network. We've got support groups throughout Hillsborough County. And since COVID-19, we have developed, the support groups on Zoom. And Bob, you were mentioning some of our caregivers and being so new to the technology. And it has just been so much fun to see how excited everybody is when they actually get through to the Zoom meeting. But what we do is we provide a meal. Everyone sits down together and they have the opportunity to just share what's going on in their day-to-day lives. We have speakers that come. Laura, you come and represent Bay Area Legal. We have other speakers that talk about trauma and how that affects our children. And self-care. Erin, you were talking about the self-care and how important that is. But we really enjoy our support groups, and there will be my contact information on the Facebook page. And if you call me directly, then I can give you more information about our Zoom support groups.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. I have been completely amazed with our relative caregivers about how they've adapted to the use of Zoom. We've had a number of hearings, even final hearings, and they have come along very nicely. And I know that that is because they've been forced to use Zoom to help the children with their schoolwork. So unfortunately, I'm sure that was very stressful, but it's really helped them to be able to proceed with their legal issues even during the pandemic. So we are kind of reaching the end of our time today, and I do want to thank a couple of people. First of all, of course, all of you, our panelists who are providing these services. One thing that had come up is the question about whether you had to live in various zip codes or areas of town to receive services. At the end, we're going to post a list of, as I said, telephone numbers, contact information. And the first thing that's listed is the Kinship support line. And if you contact that number, they will lead you in the right direction for services based on your income. I'm sorry, based on your where you live in town. And these, for the most part, these services are not income based, so you don't have to worry about that. We also especially want to thank the Children's Board of Hillsborough County, who has been so generous with us and provided so much funding and support over the years for Kinship services. Thank you to the Children's Board. We immensely appreciate all your help. And I want to thank Paul Leake, who is our data and communications person here at Bay Area. He's helped me so much with this, and I really appreciate it, being able to present this information by Facebook. Thank you, and we hope that you have a good rest of your day, and we encourage you to take advantage of these programs that are available to you, to Kinship Care providers. And thank you especially to all the Kinship Care providers